Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 12, Conclusion from Mystic Masonry by J.D. Buck. Chapter 10, Conclusion. The foregoing pages can justly be called fragments only of the secret doctrine and of the Symbols of Freemasonry. A systematic treatise on either of these subjects would necessarily include the other. The secret doctrine is the complete philosophy of Masonic symbolism. So long as this philosophy is unknown to the Mason, his symbols are, to a great extent, dead letters. The work of the lodge a dumb show beyond its moral precepts, and the genius of Masonry for the members of the craft is largely the spirit of self-interest, mutual support, and physical enjoyment or revelry, the latest embodiment of which is the mystic shrine. But there are some among the members of the craft, and how many time alone can determine who believe that Masonry means far more than this, and who have already discerned in its symbols and traditions something of their real meaning. Many of these have found partial clues which serve to keep interest alive while searching for plainer meanings and deeper revelations. In retracing the steps by which these ancient symbols and their profound philosophy have come down to our own time, more and more obscured with every passing century, students have gathered a large number of facts, a great mass of traditions and general information, all of which have been variously interpreted by different writers on Masonry. All writers, however, agree in the conclusion that the symbols and traditions of Freemasonry come from the Far East and go back to the remotest antiquity. So that the saying that the Mason journeys from west to east in search of light is literally true. This search is not one incited by curious interest only. If Masonry possesses merely a mass of curious myths and meaningless symbols, of what real value is it to anyone to trace them down? What real benefit can it be to anyone to demonstrate that 5,000 or 10,000 years ago, the same curious myths and meaningless symbols existed in the mysteries of Egypt, or were taught by Pythagoras and the followers of Zoroaster? Such, however, is not the genius of Freemasonry. The real secrets of Masonry lie concealed in its symbols, and these, constituting as they do a picture language or art speech, are made to carry a complete philosophy of the existence and relations of deity, nature, and man. The average Mason, taking the symbols for the things symbolized and knowing nothing of the profound philosophy upon which they rest, is incredulous that it ever existed. And so he treads the burning sands in search of a novel sensation or a new joke. As mere pastimes, these jovial entertainments are neither better nor worse than many others. They represent one extreme into which the ancient wisdom has degenerated. Let every intelligent Mason reflect on the sublimity and sanctity of the ceremonies in some of the degrees where the name of deity is invoked, where the highest moral precepts are inculcated, and where the purest and most exalted ethics are taught, and then let him ask himself the question whether it is consistent and devoid of hypocrisy to round all this with a roaring farce. Does not such a course tend to make all sacred things also a mere matter of form, a jest and a byword? Every Mason is familiar with this extreme, and with the extent to which these recent innovations and associations have been carried, and the present writer is by no means the first to protest against it. However ungraciously his protest may be received, or unpopular his work may be. Let every intelligent Mason admit, merely for the sake of the argument, that there is another extreme. Suppose it to be true and easily demonstrable that the symbols of Masonry embody and were originally designed to convey the most profound wisdom, and that these symbols stand unchanged through all the ages and are the means by which that wisdom may at any time be recovered by him who can find their true meaning. Masonry is, in a special sense, the custodian of these symbols, and it is its most common tradition that these and the ancient landmarks are to be preserved unaltered. This is the plainest and most logical deduction from the whole spirit of Masonry. These custodians are, in the highest degrees, called princes of the royal secret, nay, sublime princes of the royal secret. What a farce, what pretense, if there is no royal secret. Reflect a moment, good reader, and especially good brother Mason. What is the most sacred treasure, the most lasting possession of man? Is it not knowledge? Suppose a tidal wave should sweep all our seaports on the eastern and western coasts, and that this should be followed by cyclone and earthquake, so that the whole country should be completely devastated in a month. A few millions of our people remaining, with all our resources of knowledge, it might take half a century to recover a greater part of our prosperity. But suppose our people were all swept away, like many an ancient civilization or lost empire. Or suppose that all else remained and we lost our store of knowledge, all arts, all sciences, and that our whole people were reduced to the condition of our North American Indians. Half a century then would destroy all we have so laboriously wrought out, and we might pitch our wigwams in weed-grown streets or amid crumbling ruins. What we have imagined of our own is but the history of other civilizations. The howling wastes of Gobi conceal, we are told, the remains of a civilization far outranking our own, and beneath the ocean's bed lie entombed the records and the monuments of man. Our most lasting possession is knowledge, and when this is swept away, desolation only remains. Brother Pike says that the real secrets of Masonry, the philosophy concealed in its symbols, are far older than the Vedas, and are at least 10,000 years old, and that the art speech which symbolism is, was designed by real princes of the royal secret, by prince adepts or perfect masters, to conceal, preserve, and convey this ancient wisdom to the latest generations of men, that when civilizations decayed, when empires ceased to be, and when desolation brooded in silence over a whole continent, a rock beside the water, or a symbol transplanted to another land might serve to convey the lost secret to another people and time. Knowing the course of empire, and the inevitable destiny of races of man, these sublime princes of the royal secret, by wise forethought, determined that nothing should be lost. Such is the heritage of Masonry, and Brother Pike proves this beyond all controversy by excerpts from the sacred books of all religions, and by the most learned and painstaking investigation. The value of such investigations does not consist in proving the great antiquity of the symbols of Freemasonry, for this is an easy task, and no one with the slightest knowledge of the subject dare dispute it, for the symbols are found on the oldest monuments and described in the oldest records known to man. A far more difficult undertaking, the results of which are beyond all else valuable, is the effort to determine exactly what these symbols mean. If they were the precipitated results of profound knowledge, the very fruitage of all past civilizations, some of which transcended all we have yet achieved in the West, then to correctly interpret them means the recovery of all past knowledge in substance, if not in detail. This is precisely the interpretation and the value that should be put upon such results. This result is the recovery of the lost word of the Master, and the symbol of that word is the Aum of the Persian Magi and the most ancient Brahman, because back of that triliteral glyphic lies the philosophy of the secret doctrine, the synthesis of all knowledge. Let any prince of the royal secret examine the evidence and judge for himself. If instead of doing this, he prefers to sneer at these statements and to ridicule the whole subject while he still boasts the title of Prince Adept, he stands as three men once stood near the coast of Joppa, self-convicted by the imprecations of his own mouth. The present revival of philosophy in the West ought to bring about the restoration of this old wisdom. While it cannot interfere with the Masonic organization in the least, or seek to reveal any of its ceremonies, grips, or passwords by which the secrets of Masonry may be obtained unlawfully, it must give the largest credit to the fidelity with which the symbols and ancient landmarks have been preserved by the organization of Freemasons, and seek the cooperation of all earnest and true Masons in the recovery of the lost word and in promulgating this sublime philosophy for the benefit of the whole human race. There is an old occult maxim which declares that nothing is concealed from him who knows. No Mason is bound to conceal that which he has never learned in the lodge. All else he receives as he learns anything, places his own estimate upon its value, and becomes individually responsible for its use. It must be a matter of conscience and be weighed in the balance of duty, and everyone must abide by the result. If Masonry has lost the royal secret, or if it never possessed it, or if it was wrenched away in the very name of religion little more than a century ago, all the same, it belongs to the craft as the heir apparent of the old wisdom. But the time has come when no cable tow can bind it. It now belongs to humanity equally with the Mason. To this end has it been preserved throughout the centuries. What a future lies before Masonry, should it determine to enter into its birthright to possess it. Thoroughly organized as it is, and counting its membership by tens of thousands, rehabilitated in its ancient wisdom, it may become an irresistible force in shaping the present civilization and in influencing the future destiny of man. All else has perished from the civilizations of the past. Wisdom alone is immortal. Of all the possession of man, of all the achievements of classic Greece, nothing is so well remembered today as the school of Pythagoras and the philosophy of Plato. And these but embody and were founded upon the royal secret of every prince adept mason. To restore the royal secret would be a work which, when completed, would be to our present humanity what the supporting columns are to the lodge: wisdom, strength and beauty, knowledge, power and harmony. And it would introduce new methods and motives and new ideals into modern education and give us in a few generations other Platos. If we create the conditions, the results are sure to follow. Here lies the reward for all the trials and persecutions to which Masons have been subjected in the past. Here we may build the monument of all its heroes and martyrs. We may so build that, seeing it, they would rejoice that they suffered to the end. Bacon dreamed of a great instauration, a recovery of knowledge and possession of wisdom from inductive philosophy alone. But on such lines it must be forever a dream. The old philosophy is both inductive and deductive through the perfect equilibrium of reason and intuition, or experience and aspiration, and is scientific to the last degree. It will give us as a result knowledge and power without oppression, religion without superstition, universal liberty, toleration and fraternity, universal compassion, peace on earth and goodwill to man. Of course, it is in the province of Masonry to elect, if it chooses, that its symbols shall have only a superficial meaning in the lodge. It may admit that it has adopted from the ancient mysteries the glyphics and parables that once served to embody and convey the most complete and profound philosophy, and, while adopting these symbols and the ancient art speech, confine their use and interpretation to such lessons of equity, morality, and fraternity as are to be found in all exoteric religions. The author of this book would be the last to ignore or to belittle the value of ethical or moral precepts. But these are the basis of conduct, not the crown of existence, the beginning, not the end of wisdom. Man's general infancy, as Browning puts it, only begins when his code of ethics is complete, and then when he is perfected as man. To spend the greater part of his days in transgression and repentance is not man's object served, his end attained, his genuine strength put fairly forth. Masonry not only nowhere denies this deeper meaning to its symbolism, but many writers have admitted it and expatiated upon it, but very few seem to have been able to discern the real meaning. They have generally failed because of sectarian bias, which dwarfed their vision and narrowed the ancient wisdom religion to the bounds of a modern creed, while the genius of the ancient wisdom is universal and all-inclusive. To deny or to ignore any but the most superficial view is to adopt such conclusions as those arrived at by the astronomer Royal of Scotland, who makes of the coffer in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza only a corn bin. It is to profane the holy vessels and at last to materialize all spiritual things. It may justly be doubted whether any man for the past century and a half has done so much toward restoring Masonry to its birthright as Grand Master Albert Pike. His writings are a mine of wealth too little known to the great majority of Masons. The recent Jesuitical attack on his memory is not only a palpable and sensational lie, but it should serve to arouse every prince of the royal secret to a deeper knowledge of the value of Brother Pike's work. That work not only abounds in the clearest exposition of all the Masonic virtues and reveals a mind incapable of baseness, but passing beyond these to the full stature of manhood, grasps those eternal principles which underlie the building of cosmos and the evolution and regeneration of man. The charge that such a man, breathing reverence to truth, Jove to man, and aspiration toward light in every sentence of his voluminous writings, could descend to bestiality and grovel in convulsions at the feet of a confessed devil worshipper is worthy of his real accusers. And yet such is the voluminous attack recently made in the pages of a leading New York daily. The attack but thinly veils the old-time assassins of the heroes and martyrs of Masonry, and is designed to frighten the ignorant and superstitious into fresh hatred of Masonry. This hysterical granddaughter of Astarte is herself a victim, if she has any real existence at all, of the same nefast body, and is only a fit subject for a madhouse. History repeats itself, and this fresh attack upon Masonry, while it cannot tarnish the fame of the honored dead, should warn Masons that even in this enlightened age, the minions of the Prince of Darkness and the Father of Lies have not renounced their allegiance or forgotten their cunning. Persecution is to the truth what the winds and the rains are to the sprouting oak. These but sink deeper the roots of conviction and spread wider the leaves that are for the healing of the nations. If Masons will but pass from refreshment to labor and unite in rebuilding the city and temple of the Lord of Truth, recover the lost word and rehabilitate the ancient wisdom, she may paraphrase the saying of Macaulay in his essay on Berea and apply it to all her enemies. We therefore like his invectives against us much better than anything else he has written. It was but little that he could do to promote the honor of our country, but that little he did strenuously and constantly. Renegade, traitor, slave, coward, liar, slanderer, murderer, hack writer, police spy. The one small service which he could render to England was to hate her, and such as he was may all who hate her be. Masonry need not fear the hatred of such, and only such will hate her if she enters into her priceless inheritance, bears aloft her banners, and emblazons with light her time-honored landmarks. So mote it be. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.